Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello my dear students and welcome back to this new English lesson for grade 8. I wish you time full of joy and benefit. Our lesson today will be about giving advice and making suggestions. Again, in this lesson we are going to learn how to give advice and make suggestions with the use of some expressions. Let's get started. Now, look at the picture and here the speaker is giving the listener advice. What does he say? You had better hurry up because the train leaves in 10 minutes. Again, you had better hurry up because the train leaves in 10 minutes. Notice the speaker used had better to give advice, and had better is followed by hurry up. Hurry up is the infinitive form of the verb. So, when we want to give advice, we use had better, and had better should be followed by the infinitive form of the verb. What about the next example? Look at the picture. The speaker here is giving advice to the listener, and he says, you had better not eat junk food. Again, you had better not eat junk food. What does the speaker use? He uses had better, and after had better, not, which is the negative form, and the infinitive form of the verb eat. So, when we want to give advice using the negative form, we use had better plus not, then the infinitive form of the verb. Let's continue. What about advice with had better and had better not? Okay, dear students, as you have seen in the previous examples that we use advice with had better not, when the speaker thinks it's good for the listener to do or not to do something. For example, your friend wants to lose weight and asks for advice. What do you advise your friend? You use had better. Let's see. You had better not eat junk food. Notice we have the expression had better plus not, the negative, and then the infinitive form of the verb eat. And after that we complete the rest of the sentence. Let's continue. What about these examples? Look at the picture and notice that the speaker is making a suggestion here. The speaker is not making advice, he is making a suggestion. What does he say? What about flying our kites? Again, what about flying our kites? Notice the speaker uses what about to give suggestions, and what about is followed by verb with ing, flying. So, with expressions like what about, we should have verb with ing. We don't say what about fly. What about flying our kites? The next example. A. What do you suggest we have for dinner? B. We could have fish. Here the speaker is giving a suggestion or is making a suggestion. He uses could. He uses could. And after could we have the word or the verb have, which is the infinitive form of the verb. So he says we could have fish. So here the speakers are making suggestions, right? Let's continue. What about suggestion with what about and you could? As you have seen in the previous two examples, that we used what about and you could to make suggestions. Let's see. We use a suggestion when the speaker wants to give a listener a new idea about something. For example, your friend is getting bored at home and asks you for something to do. You can suggest an idea. You can suggest an idea by saying, what about watching an action film? You are making a suggestion to your friend. Your friend feels bored at home. So you tell him, What about watching an action film? Notice what about, and what about is followed by the verb ing watching. We don't say what about watch, we say what about watching an action film. Let's continue. Expressions to use with suggestions are what about, you could. Both have the same meaning, so both give suggestions, right? What about and you could. Let's continue. Now, I want you students to study these examples. Number 1, let's read. We had better stay at home. Again, we had better stay at home. Notice here we have had better and it's followed by stay, which is the infinitive form of the verb. In this example, the speaker is giving idea, right? Is giving an idea. Number 2, you had better not drive in the snow. Again, you had better not drive in the snow. Here the speaker is giving or adding a new idea by giving advice. What does he say? You had better not drive in the snow. Let's see the form. Had better plus not, the negative, and the drive is the infinitive form of the verb. So here we have advice, right? We have advice. Let's continue. What about number 3? What about spending the weekend on the beach? Again, the speaker here is making a suggestion by saying, what about spending the weekend on the beach? Notice we have here what about, and it's followed by spending the verb ing, because what about should be followed with a verb ing, and then the rest of the sentence to become what about spending the weekend on the beach, right? Let's continue. What about number 4? Let's read. What about watching a movie? Here the speaker is making a suggestion by saying what about plus the verb ing watching and then the rest of the sentence. What about watching a movie? We don't say what about watch. Let's continue. What about number 5? The speaker says you could wear the pink shoes. Again, you could wear the pink shoes. What does the speaker use to make suggestion? He uses could, and could is followed by the infinitive form of the verb wear, and then the rest of the sentence. So when we use could, we should have after it the infinitive form of the verb. Again, you could wear the pink shoes. The speaker here is making a suggestion. Okay, dear students, it's time to practice. We have an activity and we are going to choose the correct answer based on what we have just explained. Let's start. Number 1. What about space, some cake? Do we use eat or eating? Very good, eating. Why? Because what about should be followed with a verb ing. We don't say what about eat. We say what about eating some cake. Number 2. You had better space a dictionary for correct pronunciation. What is the right answer? Is it use or using? Very good, use. Why? Because you had better or had better should be followed with the infinitive form of the verb, which is use. So we say you had better use a dictionary for correct pronunciation. Number 3. You had better space to work when you are sick. Again, you had better space to work when you are sick. Do we use not go or go to? Very good. We use not go because had better should be followed with the negative not, the negative form, and then the infinitive form of the verb to become you had better not go to work when you are sick. And the next example, you could space computer games. Do we say playing or play? Very good, play. Why? Because we have could, and could should be followed with the infinitive form of the verb. To become, you could play computer games. Play is the infinitive form of the verb. Let's continue. Here we have another activity. We are going, students, to correct these sentences. Each sentence has a mistake. We are going to find the mistakes and correct it, right? Let's start. Number 1. You had better not going there alone. Again, you had better not going there alone. Where is the mistake in this sentence? Very good. It's going. Why? What is the correct answer? It's go. So going becomes go. Why? Because had better should be followed with the infinitive form of the verb, not a verb with ing. Let's continue. Number 2. What about to go on a picnic this afternoon? Again, what about to go on a picnic this afternoon? Where is the mistake? Very good. It's to go. So what is the correct answer? Going. So to go becomes going. Why? Because what about should be followed with a verb ing, not infinitive, right? Let's continue. Number 3. You could be playing cards if you are bored. Again, you could be playing cards if you are bored. Where is the error in this example? Very good. It's playing. What is the correct answer? It's play. Playing becomes play. Why? Because could should be followed with the infinitive form of the verb, not a verb with ing, right? And number 4, you had better cleaning your room if you want to go out. Again, you had better cleaning your room if you want to go out. Where is the mistake? Very fine. It's cleaning. So cleaning becomes clean. Why? Notice we have the expression had better, which should be followed with the infinitive form of the verb, not a verb with ing. You had better clean your room if you want to go out. And now, dear students, this is the end of our lesson. I hope that you enjoyed your time and learned. Thank you for watching. أعزائي الطلبة، وصلنا إلى نهاية هذا الموقف التعليمي. يمكنكم إعادة مشاهدة هذا الموقف مرة أخرى من خلال الضغط على الرابط أو الكود الموجود أسفل الشاشة. شكرا لحسن المتابعة وإلى اللقاء.